Deep sea discovery. Recent research has provided new insights into how fish communicate. Nico Michels is an ecologist from the University of Tübingen in Germany, who spends part of each year in Egypt, where he dives in the Red Sea, observing fish life and gathering data on its coral reefs. In September 2007, he decided to find out how far red light could penetrate the ocean depths. Seawater absorbs different colors at different depths, and as an experienced diver, Michels was aware that red light is extinguished not far below the surface, whereas blue-green light penetrates deeper. To find out the depth at which red disappeared in this particular ocean, however, he attached a special plastic filter to his dive mask, which was designed to block out all colors except red. Then he began to descend. In theory, once he reached about 15 meters, he should have been plunged into darkness. Instead, something totally unexpected happened. Sure enough, 20 meters down, it was as dark as night. All the fish disappeared. With no light from the surface, they were effectively black and had become invisible, he says. But it didn't stay black for long. Then I saw a group of goby fish with bright red eyes lit up against the background. After that, red spots began to show up all over the reef. Even with the red filter removed, Michels could pick them out without much trouble once his eyes grew accustomed to the gloom. It seems strange that no diver or researcher had spotted all this red before, but as Michels points out, no one saw it because no one expected to see it. On that one dive, Michels discovered 3 fish species with prominent red markings and has found many others since. But how can fish appear red where there's no red light? Ordinary red pigments look red because they reflect red light while absorbing all other wavelengths. At 20 meters down, there had to be some other explanation for the red Michels was seeing. He suspected fluorescence. Fluorescent pigments behave differently from ordinary ones. They receive incoming light of one wavelength, for example blue, and emit light of a longer wavelength, in this case red. On the reef in the Red Sea during daytime, the most likely explanation was that the predominantly blue and green wavelengths at depth triggered the emission of fluorescent red in the fish. With only a week left in Egypt and lacking the equipment to confirm that the fish were fluorescent, Michels photographed as many of them as he could. Then, once back in Germany, he bought an assortment of tropical fish and installed them in his lab. Here he confirmed that the fish did indeed fluoresce. In most of the fish he looked at, the fluorescence could be traced to specialized pigment cells that lie in the skin beneath the scales. These cells contain guanine crystals, which scatter light to give fish their silvery sheen. However, Michels says they are still not sure exactly what is fluorescing. It's not the crystals themselves, it's probably a fluorescent protein built into the crystals, and we have a suspicion that it might be made by bacteria. Intrigued, Michels began a systematic search for red fluorescence in reef fish. He and his colleagues, Nils Anthes and Dennis Springer, have identified some 50 species with red fluorescence. The most common markings tend to be on the body towards the head and to a lesser extent around the eyes, and then the fins. To Michels, the distribution of these markings is one of the strongest indications that red fluorescence has a very particular function: communication with other members of the species. According to several recent studies, a whole range of animals employ fluorescence as a natural highlighter to boost the visibility of body parts they use to signal, for example to ward off enemies. In reef fish, the red tends to be confined to parts of the body used to signal, suggesting these markings serve a similar function. But instead of highlighting an existing color, the fluorescence gives the fish a color that otherwise wouldn't exist. For example, fish commonly use eye rings to signal that they are present and their direction of gaze, and Michel suspects that red-eyed gobies use signals to indicate their location and keep their group together. F. Red light, whatever its source, doesn't travel far through water, which suggests signals are intended to be private, seen only by nearby fish of the right species. There are several lines of evidence to support this, says Michels, and closely related species do not have completely identical markings, which suggests they might be important in species recognition. G. Michel suspects red fluorescence has another important role for some reef fish. During his first dive with the red filter, he noticed corals glow a dark but faint red too. Against this irregular red background, a fish that glows red all over would be hard to distinguish. More compelling for Michels is the case of the scorpion fish, which lies perfectly still until food swims past, which it then sucks in. Yet, if red plays any part in a fish's life, then it must be able to see it. Fish that live in a world dominated by blue-green light are assumed to have eyes tuned to those wavelengths, and most marine fish that have been studied are thought incapable of seeing red. One exception is the seahorse, whose eyes are sensitive to red. As for the other fish, it remains to be seen.